Welcome back to the channel. Max Wardell, overheadathletics.com. Today we're talking about exercises for UCL tears. Now, more on the side of non-operative, but if you had a UCL repair or internal brace or Tommy John surgery in the past, these are exercises you can do as well. We use them all the time in physical therapy. One of the most common injuries that I see in working with throwing athletes is partial UCL tears or non-operative UCL tears. So we're gonna go through some of the exercises that will take those athletes through in the beginning just to give them enough foundational elbow strength to complete a throw successfully long term. We got to build them up from the ground level. So we're going to start that with grip training. It can be any form of grip training, but something that's relatively challenging. Now, if you have a provocative medial elbow, meaning gripping can kind of be painful, you might start with something light like a putty squeeze, something that you can kind of just work through, get the forearm muscles activated, activate some of the finger flexors, and then you can start progressing that to something that's maybe even a gripper, something that's challenging that grip a little bit, like a farmer's carry. Here we'll use an upside down kettlebell to challenge that, and then we work through a lot of different forearm training as well. Some of those forearm exercises consist of something where we're challenging the finger intrinsics as well with some amount of gripping activity in varying planes and motions that are going to be first kind of basic, and we're going to show you guys in another video some more advanced elbow strengthening exercises after a UCL tear. But in this video we're kind of talking about some of the more basic stuff just to give that elbow a little bit of stimulus to start to get a little bit stronger and stabilize better under a little bit of kind of predictable, stable loads. So that includes the grip strength, but also the muscles on the outside of the elbow. And that's where we're going to start doing our ulnar deviation, which means taking the wrist this way, hits this big forearm muscle on the outside. That's that big, bulky forearm muscle. And from there, we're going to use a baseball bat or a golf club if you need something a little bit lighter. You can choke up, choke down wherever you need, and you're going to start hitting that ulnar deviation, squeezing. Now in this example, we put a fat grip or a thickened grip on the golf club to challenge the grip even more. From there, you can kind of go the inverse and go overhead closer to that 90-90 position. So now you're getting your arm closer to where it's at during the throw. You're getting a little bit more tricep here, and a band attached up high makes you resist down into that motion closer to where you'll be when you throw. We love the option of using cable columns when possible because they keep the load consistent throughout the entire exercise. So when you have a cable column, you have just as much load in extension as you did in flexion. That's very different than, say, a band, where when you do a band exercise, when you get to the end of your range, the band resistance is to a much greater level, and that can change how the muscles work. Really, a consistent load seems more predictable and works better earlier on in the rehabilitation process, so we use a lot of cable column stuff when we can if you're just starting this process. Bands are great because they can provide some variable resistance throughout the range, and there's ways to make the bands work hard at different ranges, and we can kind of go over that in the future. But we'll stick with a cable column here. One thing you see Chase doing is working into a tricep extension. So guys, Chase is really strong, so we've got him using one plate on the stack here. I'm kidding. The guy's a beast. We're just showing it with a lightweight for an example here. So start with a weight that's reasonable for you. Overhead tricep extension, there's no real outward bending force, what we call valgus, that tensions the UCL here. And we can strengthen the tricep as it comes into the elbow in this position pretty efficiently. From there, we often like to switch around and do a 90-90 bicep curl. The two arm variation with the rope attachment pulls the hands inward a little bit and doesn't give you any of that outward bending force that stresses the ulnar collateral ligament, which is what we want to avoid. So we like that split stance or lunge stance, put athletes in positions that are closer to where they're going to be when they throw, and have them train the muscles you want to train. Now, in this video, we've talked about training the grip, which trains some of the grip muscles that cross the elbow. And we've seen in the research that training grip muscles in particular can close the inside of the elbow down, which is what we want to reduce the amount of opening or gapping. That's what tears the UCL. So we've seen that these forearm muscles, but in particular, the one on the outside here, the flexor carpi ulnaris, this big thick one, closes down that space, as well as that grip muscle flexor digitorum superficialis. And then some of the other muscles we're talking about here, like the bicep, can help to stabilize the inside of the elbow because it actually has a little bit of a fascial attachment that kind of wraps around the inside of the elbow as well as attaches to that radius there, which helps slow your arm down into extension at the end of your throw as well. So working all of these things in the beginning stages of rehabilitation is very important. Here's a few options just to get yourself started if you're kind of in that hiatus of not knowing where to go from here. If you guys like this video, hit subscribe now and hit the bell for notifications. We got another video coming with more advanced exercises. You don't want to miss that. So we'll see you guys in that video.